Boulder Colors, paint from plants. I happen to be on the internet, and you know how that goes, one direction, straight towards paint. And I ran into this company who had a little thing online. They give you these cute little cards with like each little collection that you do. I just kind of put them all together. I'm just going to keep that little bit of swatch that they give you. Really weird names because it comes from the plants that they use to create the color. And I'll give you their little description. At Boulder Colors, we create organic watercolors from locally grown plants and food waste using the lake pigments process. We make our own pigments from all natural plant dyed, and 100% of the dye ingredients are locally sourced from nearby farms and restaurants. Our vegan watercolor binder is made with plum syrup. So that is very original. I had never really heard of plants quite going this route. They do say that you'll have to check for light fastness, and they suggest not putting them out where direct sunlight hits them. I'm sure some of them are light fast, but you definitely have to do your own testing for these. I'd say keep it with your sketchbook, or you're going to have to coat it with something just to be on the safe side if you're going to sell these. Now, I just wanted to give them a try. So I got 3 of their sets. I got their Dinner in Mexico. I got their neons, which are these really bright colors. And I got their collection Amaranth. And it comes with 3 colors. So 3 colors will have that same name in this palette. And you can take a look. I got the quarter pans, which came in nice little metal pans, labeled on the bottom, all set, ready to put right into. And I just put a magnet on the back of an old business card holder and put them in there. So we have 14 colors to try out today. And this is my very first impression. I basically stuck these together and I did nothing else, and I waited so that we could kind of experience this together. So a couple of them do have a little bit of cracks in them, just 2, and the rest look kind of overfilled in the pan. They're kind of bubbling up a little bit, which is great. You know you're getting your full money's worth. They do come in half pans, but just to try these out and them being a little bit different, I wasn't sure. So let's go ahead and get the swatching on. All right, we got some swatch cards. I just love when handmade companies do these little things. I always want to save them because, you know, there's so much work into putting hand painted swatches and everything to make sure that you know what color is. Now I want to have the palette right in front of you so that we can see how they re-wet. I've got some fresh water here, and the first up is, let me see, let me look up that name, Bougainvillea. So I have no idea of what plant that is, but I guess they name them after the plants. This one did have a tiny bit of cracking in it, so we'll just see if we get it creamy, if that just kind of fills right in. It doesn't affect the way a paint works. So let's see how these paint out. Wow, is that bright. When they say that collection was their neons, they're not kidding. It looks a lot drabber in the pan than it paints out. That is a very vibrant pink. I tried to get a few that I thought would kind of give me a well-rounded view of their paints. And they had some standard colors as well. I think they're all made from flowers, but they had some colors that appear standard, let's put it that way. And these looked a little fun to play with. They're painting out really easily. I didn't have any problem with the re-wet. And that is very vivid, very vivid. Next we have a sand cherry. So some of these names, it's kind of funny because of what they come from. They, like I would never think of this as sand cherry. I would not say that these have a heavy feel. If anything, they have a very light feel to them. They're not very weighty. You know how some handmade paints have an opacity or a very heavy hand to them? These do not have that. They feel very light. They feel very transparent so far. And I was actually expecting something much heavier. They seem to be drying quite fast. That could be because of their unique binder. How fun. Purple Basil. And this is a very blue color. But the pans get very creamy very easily. I wouldn't even say they're creamy. It's a very light feel. If I would pick a major brand, I would say they feel like, let me think about that. Well, they feel the opposite of like an M. Graham or a Michael Harding. They're very dry to the touch. They're not creamy like a Schmincke. I'd say they have a lighter feel like some of the Daniel Smith because they're very hard in the pan. They don't move like a core, but they kind of have a feeling like a core when you're actually pulling them out of the pan. They have that kind of light feeling. But they definitely do not feel like handmade paints usually have that heavy feeling. This is red basil, and it's anything but red. No, it's not red. So they must extract it, do a process. I guess they have a whole Facebook group, this Boulder Colors, on how they do the process and stuff. I think they have classes and everything. I can't believe they actually use, in some of these colors, they use waste in order to get these pigments. The next up is tomato leaf. This one does seem a little harder to re-wet. Or I should say harder in the pan. It's so fun when you run into something like an innovative company like this. And as that water's setting in the pan, it's getting more and more vibrant. Those colors are quite vibrant. Then we have Marigold. I wonder when they dry if they're going to lose a lot of vibrancy. That color, I expected it to be a little darker. And this is one of the first up on that Amaranth where there was 3 colors that were named the same. I guess they're all made from that same. Oh wow, that is really pretty. think this is my favorite color so far. Yeah, that is a stunner. It has like, it's like drab orange, but with a really soft undertone to it. Very pretty. So let's do another one from that collection right beneath it. Wow. That is another gorgeous color. These, with this name, the same name, they paint out even easier. But they still have that very light feeling. Wow. Really pretty. Then we got Prickly Pear. It's very similar to this one, but I'd say the other one is a little bit more pigmented than this one. I was expecting these to be much harder to re-wet though. I'm just touching them and they're coming out perfect. I hope my hand wasn't in the way during that one. Then we have Plankton. I think we'll play and see how these move together, if they mix on paper or... And everyone knows that I can't do anything right, and we got a little bleed here. I can do some things right, but I have to mess up every swatch, I think. Pretty. Red onion. This looks very green in the pan. Can you believe that this was probably made from a red onion? It's kind of bizarre a little bit. I'd say this has the color of something like green earth, but it actually re-wets better than green earth. Green earths can be so very difficult. Pretty, very pretty. Blue corn. This definitely makes me think of like cornflower blue. lavender type color. And then we're going to have another one of that grouping of that amaranth color. This is the third one in that group. After, just to take note, after I wet this purple one up here, the cherry one, it did crack a little bit on me. It didn't have cracks beforehand, so just something to note. This is kind of a nice sandy color. I think of beach as soon as I see that. And our last one is avocado, which this does not look like an avocado at all. It's a very pink. I'm going to have to investigate on more on the practice of how they get these like this from what they use. This one does have some opacity to it. I'd consider it semi-opaque. The rest were pretty transparent, or very transparent actually. This one's got a tiny bit of weight to it right here. Yeah, a little bit. What a line of colors. You can definitely see how bright some of those, what they call their neon line. I don't know if I'd really consider them neons, but they're definitely brights. So that's going to be a lot of fun to play with. And we'll see how they dry down, see how much pigment they lose, and take a look at the palette after I've dipped into it. Let's let them dry. All right, they're all dry. They look quite pretty. Let's get a closer view. They're very light on their feet. They feel very light in the pan. And, you know, I just want to kind of see. Let's take a look at them in the pans. I'll show you the little bit of cracking. You can see these two had cracks in them prior to. This one has a hairline there, and this one now has a little bit of a crack. I hope you can see that. It's not real extreme. They're not loose in the pans. They're not crumbling or anything like that. It's just something that I wanted you to note. There is a couple of air bubbles as well, and that could be just because of the consistency of when they have to pour them with that, let's see, plum syrup. Plum syrup, what do you call it, binder. So that's really different. So I was thinking, let me go ahead and put a couple of drops on a couple of these this time. And I'm going to see if they move in water a little bit. All right, let's move our paper over a little bit. Got a little spot. We can do a little experiment. Got some clean water here. I'm just curious because I've never used paints like this before. And they do have, they feel like regular watercolors, but they feel very light on their feet. I don't know how else to explain it. Usually I expect natural pigments like handmade to be kind of weighty or heavy on their feet, like a certain amount of pigment granules are in it. And these don't have that feeling. All right, I think we got some nice little puddle going there. Make sure. Let's see. I really liked this color, so let's go ahead and see how they move. They don't move a ton. Different colors might move slightly differently. This one maybe a tiny bit more. Sorry about my phone in the background there. And also, I'm having a hard time coming up with what should I call this palette. Everyone knows that I name my palettes, and I don't have a name right offhand. This is kind of a combo of 3 of their little collections, and we'll go over that in just a second. So they're staying very much exactly where I put them. They're doing a tiny bit of spread, but not much at all. I don't think we tried this one. All right. They didn't move at all. The binder just, you know, I was curious whether or not that binder would cause it to move or stay in one place. And they don't really move a tremendous amount. Really cute little palette. But yeah, I need a name for this palette. What would you call it? Let me bring the colors back out. What would you call it with those colors in a palette? Because it's kind of, okay, so it's their Dinner in Mexico little mini palette. Their Amaranth, which had the 3 pigments that were all named the same. And then they had their Neon set, which was the bright colors. So what would you call a collage palette like this? Leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinions. I don't know what direction. They call their, like I said, their one Dinner in Mexico, which is really cute. But I'm not sure with the neons in there if I can call that palette that. So I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. And what do you think about paints like this? Are they fun? Is it like a good idea to experiment like this? I think this is really fun. I like supporting a small company that comes up with an innovative idea like this. Thank you so much for joining me and staying with me through this video. I'd love it if you bopped a button below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.